Jesus stepped into time from out of eternity, embracing humanity and ultimately his purpose and destiny. From his very infancy, the enemy tried to destroy him utterly, but attempts were denied despite the unrelenting schemes and desperate intensity. Fast forward to the final corridors of Jesus' earthly ministry journey, where Satan had an inside man as his seemingly perfectly witty strategy. And so Judas covenanted with the chief priests, the enemy, and betrayed Jesus for a mere 30 pieces of silver as bribery, blood money. But in the fullness of time, the Passover supper was held officially. Jesus and the 12 were gathered together, and everything was ready. The drink and bread echoed symbolically that Judas drank of Jesus' blood and ate of his body, while in his heart betrayal was lurking privily. Jesus said, "This is the blood of the new covenant, shed for many. He that eateth bread with me, and hath lifted up his heel against me." And when Judas's body was possessed of the enemy, Jesus said, "That thou doest, Judas, do quickly." Later, a trusted few would be his only company as Jesus went on to pray in the Garden of Gethsemane. The weight of the world was on his shoulders. Sorrow gripped for sheer intensity. "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Nevertheless, if it is your will, Dad, let it be." His company, who ought to be praying, fell asleep. The spirit was very willing, but the flesh was weak. You see, Jesus came from God, having set aside his glory and majesty, and took upon himself the garment of flesh and blood, the frailty of humanity. All he ever did was lead a life that was exemplary. He preached, healed, delivered the weak, the poor, and the needy. He went to his people Israel, who he redeemed from Egypt's captivity. A Judas kiss. And the chief priests and multitudes outrightly rejected his messianic ministry. And they insisted that the words that he spoke were blasphemy. According to their interpretation of prophecy, Jesus did not fit the portfolio of kingly supremacy, and so they arrested him, held him in captivity, and delivered him up to be crucified of the authorities. With all this on his mind, he looked back and forward in time. Jesus looked back and saw Noah, Moses, Ruth, and Joshua imprisoned by the enemy. He saw all who were already held in death's captivity. He looked ahead and saw Paul, Silas, Priscilla, and Timothy. He saw the future, the church. He saw you. He saw me. Jesus saw that he was our only hope of liberty. He saw his Father's heart and divine will for humanity. Jesus pressed on with purpose and integrity. He bore the sorrows along his trek to destiny. The enemy attacked him brutally. "Crucify him, crucify him. But I am that I am must have the victory." Jesus knew he was the lamb ordained to die sacrificially, to defeat and disarm the powers and principalities. As he hung on the cross, he became filthy. God's wrath poured out on him for the world's sins and iniquities. Darkness overshadowed for 3 intense hours of agony. Then, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? He cried with a loud voice, then died immediately. There was a rumbling throughout the land of Gethsemane. The veil was rent in two, according to prophecy. On the 3rd day, Jesus arose from the grave supernaturally, having victory over death and taking captivity. Behold, a brand new day in humanity. Behold, Jesus, the great high priest, order of divinity. The high priest who knows a thing or two about our frailty. Holy Mount Zion, who can be touched by the feeling of our infirmities. Forever, abiding in the Holy of Holies, making intercession on our behalf continually. To death and hell, he now holds the keys. Behold, he which was, which is to come. Behold, Jesus in heaven and earth. He has all